Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Planet Your Unit Calendar. This is a month-by-month overview of council events and programs designed to help you with your unit calendar for the upcoming year. Your panelists tonight, myself, Rob DeFazio from the Membership and Unit Service team, as well as my two colleagues tonight, David LaSarica and Logan Ferraro, our program executive. Guys, jump in and say hi before we get started here.
Hi, everyone. I love that photo that you chose of all of us. Good choices there.
I decided we couldn't just go with the standard shirt and tie that we usually wear, so we went with that. So tonight's all three of us are gonna be bringing some insight into the calendar planning process, and this is the right time to be able to do that. Myself and David being on the membership side, we're going to talk about some of the membership and unit service things you need to be aware of. And Logan is chock full of information and dates for all those cool programs we're going to be doing. So why don't we dig in, guys, and get started here. And we're going to talk about the overview real quick. And planning the unit calendar is really important because it allows your unit to plan out the upcoming scouting year. It provides your scouts and leaders with opportunities to prepare in advance and as well as assist with advancement. And it can be used as a promotional tool when recruiting new scouts for your unit. And David, you've got a lot of experience with this, being a Cub Scout leader. Using this for all the fall recruitment coming up is crucial, right?
That is correct. I mean, you really want to have a solid calendar at the get-go. I mean, really beginning of August is ideal, but we'll go through that kind of order of things. But it's very helpful for prospective scouts and even returning scouts to kind of see what you have planned and all the thoughts and efforts and fun stuff that you have going on throughout the year.
Awesome. And one of the key things when you're talking about your calendar should also be your leadership calendars. And as you know, every month, the different districts of the Mayflower Council host roundtable. And this is a great opportunity for some education, as well as to get last minute updates and reminders about upcoming things that are going to be happening, not only within your particular district, but also within the council. I've laid out when the dates are for each district. Cranberry, Harbors, and Sachem usually go the first Wednesday of each month. Headwaters and Post Road do a combined one on the first Thursday of each month, and Metacomet goes on the first Tuesday of each month. You do want to keep track and in touch with your district roundtable commissioner, because with certain holidays that might come up, those dates might change. And the other piece of advice we want to give you about roundtable is if you can't go, send it to the leader. Send an assistant Cub Master or Scout Master, or maybe a den leader, especially if the topics get something to do with something they're working on. Have a representative there to take notes. And if you really sit down with your leaders and say, okay, we have 6 leaders here, and there are 8 or 9 months of roundtable. So what we're going to do is basically, David's going to go in October, and Logan's going to go in November, and Rob's going to go in December, and split that up a little bit and have them go and take notes. It's a great way, again, to keep informed. They're going to come back with a lot of great ideas because they're going to be able to talk to other leaders.
And even though we took off July for roundtables, there are August roundtables that we encourage everyone to go to, talking about the new rates and as well as other information that's important. And this week is actually the roundtable week for many districts.
It is. Our council roundtable is, I believe, in 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but we will get that date for you and put that up there in a minute. But you know what? Accessing the council calendar is key when it comes to roundtable and all the events, because that's where they are. You can find it on the Mayflower BSA website under calendar. And as you can see, we highlight calendar. You click calendar and it comes up as an event list. Now, if you're like me, an event list is good, but I kind of like to see that whole big grid. So if you click the month view calendar, it actually comes up and it looks like a calendar, and you can see throughout the entire month what's happening. and all the upcoming stuff. But what we're going to do tonight is myself and my counterparts, we're actually going to go through month by month, and we're going to talk about what you should be working on and talk about important dates and things like that. So to get things started, it's August 1st, everybody. Can you believe it? Where does the time go? Logan, we're going to start with you because we haven't heard from you yet. Let's talk a little bit about some important dates for some activities. And we also got some information there with regard to popcorn.
Sure thing. So coming up strong next week on August 9th, we have our popcorn kickoff meeting. Great time, especially if you have a new popcorn kernel or an experienced one, to have them stop by and learn a bit more about what our popcorn fundraiser is like. For those of you who missed our first Scout Day at Fenway Park earlier this summer, August 13th, we are doing round 2. So don't forget to stop in and grab your tickets to participate in Scout Day at Fenway Park. And then on August 25th, we're going back to popcorn. We have the popcorn show and sell orders are due. So make sure you get your orders in on time so they can be in and ready for the fall. And then the last August activity we have on August 25th through 27th is our OA induction weekend at Camp Resolute up in Bolton.
And just to clarify, anybody that did sign up for the August 9th popcorn kickoff, and if they do attend, they get an additional 2% commission on their sales. So highly encourage folks to take advantage of that.
Awesome. And the OA weekend, obviously, being for Scouts BSA. Again, we designed this seminar tonight, not only for Cub Scout packs, but also for venturing crews, Sea Scouting ships, and Scouts BSA. So David, you and I both know that this is the time to plan out the upcoming year. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the important things that units should be doing this time of year to prep for the upcoming season?
Yeah, so I mean, everybody has enjoyed their summer, hopefully, and they're all kind of starting to think about the September kickoff. From a pack perspective, hopefully everyone is doing their monthly pack wide events. But this is really the time of year where you need to get together with your unit leaders and start planning for the entire year, especially in anticipation of the joint scouting day. We talked about a little bit earlier, to get that calendar in order. It's also, this is the time that you really want to nail down your leaders, make sure that they are planning to continue. If you do have any kind of holes in your leadership, den leadership, or committee leadership, this will give you a little bit of time to try and fill those holes. It's also an important time to take a look at your unit pin. For those of you that don't know what that is, you can reach out to me directly and I can help you set that up. It's basically what a prospective scout will see when they go to beascout.org and they put it in their zip code and they find your unit. It's all the information that they'll find on there. It's also the information that will be given to them when they actually submit an application, so they can kind of give a little bit of information about what your unit is, where you meet, when you meet, what your dues are, what the dues cover, that kind of thing. So it's very important to have that updated before joining day. A lot of times we'll find some pins that will still have outdated Cub Masters in there, or if you have a new member coordinator, that their contact information is out of date, or you have changed the URL for your website, and it's still pointing to an out of date site. And there's nothing more disconcerting for somebody trying to find information, and they go to your pin and they're clicking on links that are out of date, or trying to call people that are no longer associated with your unit. So I am available to help anybody who's interested in helping set that up, and we'll kind of remind everybody of our contact information at the end of this session. But again, pin is very important before scouting day, and this is the right time to do it. But we're also preparing for the slices. Do you want to talk about the slices, Rob?
Yeah, I'll talk about slices real quick. Slices for Scouting is our pizza party recruitment program for Scouts BSA and venturing crews. And for those units, we want them to begin to start thinking about dates in October to be able to host a party. And we're actually going to be doing a kickoff next Thursday on the 10th. About that, as well as doing a little bit of overview about Joint Scouting Day. But Slices for Scouting is back for 2023, so we're pretty excited. David, you want to talk about the role of a new member coordinator?
Yeah, so I was just going to jump into that. So anybody that doesn't have a new member coordinator assigned, it's a very important position. As you know, that we always kind of preach and remind our parents that that we're all volunteer-run organization. And we encourage everybody to participate in some form or another. And a new member coordinator is a very valuable position. That would be great to have a member who's not necessarily on the committee sign up for. They would basically help kind of spearhead the Joint Scouting Day events, entering, following up on applications, following up on answering any kind of questions, helping to keep those pins up to date. So that kind of takes a little bit of the burden off the Cub Master and some of the committee members as well. So if you don't have one of those, keep an eye out for somebody that would be great for that. It's a very, very important position. And one of the ways to get that is to have your host a parent meeting. So yes, we tend to have the committee members and the existing leaders come, but this is a good time you would also have all the parents back in again. We can talk about what worked last year, what didn't work, some ideas for what we're planning coming up as we're building that calendar. And then you can talk about those open positions and kind of recruit those volunteers. And one of the things that we always tend to forget, or I see a lot of units tend to forget when they're building these calendars, is it's very important to get the Webelos and Scouts BSA schedule linked together. So as you know, the Aero Lights have to attend a troop meeting as well as participate in the troop activity. And a lot of times it gets put off until January, until right before crossover. Now is the time that you want to start getting those Aero Lights excited about joining their troop, kind of researching those troops. So reach out to if you have one troop in town, reach out to that one troop, or if you have a couple troops, have them reach out to them and kind of figure out how you can create a meeting for these respective Cubs, so that we're not waiting too long. And to that point, those of you that do not have den chiefs, that highly recommend that. If you don't know what a den chief is basically it's a leadership position on the troop level, and they basically will go and help out den leaders within your pack and act almost like a peer leader. And they're usually a big help. They'll help run the meeting, sometimes even help come up with stuff, or they'll help teach stuff. And obviously having a younger scout look up to the older scout, they sometimes will listen to them even more than they'll listen to us. But if at a minimum, try and get a den chief for your Webelos at the Webelo level.
So David, jumping back real quick, one of the points that I wanted to bring back up about the parent meeting, one of the things that we find effective when you're trying to recruit is to have a meeting that is specifically just the parents, a meeting where scouts are not there, and also having a description of what the duties are for the volunteer positions you might need help with. If you need help with that, you can reach out to myself or David, and we have access to those materials. We'll be happy to give them to you. So that is August. Let's jump into
just quickly, just one more point on that.
Sure.
It's a good opportunity. It is August. There's no reason why you can't. Scouts aren't present. Just don't wear a uniform and have a barbecue and serve some adult beverages along with that meeting. Kind of make it a social event as well as kind of a working event.
And you know what? Many hands make light work. So that's a great point, David. Thanks. Let's talk about September real quick. And David, this is the rolling into the scout season. So why don't you take us through the basics of running the program?
Yeah, so obviously September is when you want to get the ball rolling on this, and a lot of times that's why it's so important to have your volunteers, your leaders in place at this point. I know a lot of times you won't necessarily have a line leader in place, or even you're starting to build up with the tiger leaders. If you have your pack meetings at the end of the month, that's another reason why it's very important to have your parents meet up earlier to kind of get that going, because you really want to have at least a couple meetings or meeting before the end of this year. And especially if you're doing the popcorn fundraising, you're jumping right into it at this point. Not only are you starting your meetings, not only are you jumping into a pack meeting, but you're jumping right into the popcorn sales. And you want to make sure that it's not all about popcorn. That's a lot about welcoming new families, so that you don't have those new families coming in and saying, okay, welcome to our pack, now go sell some popcorn to raise us some money. So you kind of ease them into that and make sure you have a fun first pack meeting. Make sure that they are already well into having those den meetings and kind of feeling the value for what they've signed up for.
So the other thing too with the new volunteers, David, the online training is all available on my.scouting.org. So once you have these new volunteers in place, have them start watching some of those videos. That's really important because they can hit the ground running, right?
They can, and I mean, yeah, it's at all levels. So obviously they've already done their YPT at this point, but you really want to get them unit specific or position specific trained. It's trained leader is makes for a good leader. So I am actually organizing, working with a couple of the districts anyway to do an in-person training in addition to kind of supplement the online training. So I will be talking to a couple units about that, especially some of the younger units with younger parents about doing that.
Awesome. So Logan, the big thing, and David and I can talk about this real quick, is obviously the weekend of September 9th is what we've designated as Joint Scouting Day weekend. And obviously there's a little bit of flexibility this year. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the 9th if you've got a community event going around. But what else do we have going on in September, programming wise and with regard to popcorn that leaders are going to want to know about?
Yeah, so September 9th, that same weekend is going to be our popcorn pickup weekend. So if you're doing show and sells, which I don't know about other folks, but I find that has worked best for my pack in terms of getting the sales and getting more sales. Nothing is cuter than a little tiger sitting out front of a grocery store asking you if you want to buy popcorn or help support their pack. September 22nd through 24th, we have OA induction weekend at Camp Squanto. So that'll be happening on the far side of camp, while on the near side of camp, where the dining hall and the welcome lodge are, we'll be having the first of our Weeblos weekends this year. So Weeblos Woods is a one-day Saturday event at Camp Squanto. Scouts who come will earn a whole chunk of their advancements for the year. You'll be able to participate with the other packs in the area and really just have a fun day separate from the rest of the pack. Especially since Weeblos and Arrow of Light years are the first years that you can start doing den campouts or den activities that are truly separate from the pack. It's a really great experience to have your whole den attend this event together. Registration is now up on the website and ready to go.
Yeah, and I highly encourage the Weeblos Woods. In addition, we'll talk again a little bit about doing the the joint activities with the troops. But the Weeblos is a very crucial age group for the scouts as to what they're kind of making their decision as whether or not they're going to continue. Some of them are already gung-ho planning to continue, but the Weeblos Woods is kind of a good introduction to that reminder to these scouts as to why scouting is so much fun, and kind of gives them a little glimpse into what they're going to be seeing as they continue in their troop.
The other thing I just want to throw in there real quick is throughout the month, as follow-up to Joint Scouting Day, you should be having some kind of regular follow-up plan with any leads that came to Joint Scouting Day and didn't join. And obviously also make sure that your new scouts are getting involved and hitting the ground running with their program. Let's talk about October though. And one of these dates, guys, is my birthday, but we're not going to talk about that as part of this today. Logan, take us through what's going on programming wise in Rocktober.
All right, so October is busy for us this year. We are not doing any fall camporees, and that is because it is Mass Jam year. So October 7th through 9th is Mass Jam. Think of it like a Massachusetts-based jamboree. We haven't had one in quite a few years because of COVID, so this is a chance for your Scouts BSA troops and venturing crews, as well as Sea Scouts, to come on down and participate. Rob is the staff advisor for this year's event. And I've heard nothing but wonderful things about how much fun we're going to have.
It's going to be a lot of fun. The activities that are being planned are things that you won't see at a regular camporee. So right now, I can tell you that any units that haven't pre-registered will be put on a wait list, but we are working feverishly to try and accommodate everybody. So,
and by this point, October, you already have a good idea of who has returned as a scout, who's continuing, and hopefully those who did not return. This is, if you have not done so already, you should be reaching out to those families to kind of get clarification as to why they have continued, if they're still planning on continuing, if it's just a sports related thing, because you have to start getting your roster ready for rechartering. And this is another important reason why you should have monthly leader meetings, so check-ins with your den leaders, that if there are any particular scouts that haven't been showing up, kind of find out why they haven't been showing up, and you can kind of reach out to them and help out with that.
So Logan, we also got a couple of other programs going on in October. Tell us a little bit about Halloween Fun Day and Weeblo's Adventure Meet?
Yes, so October 14th, we have Halloween Fun Day at Camp Squanto. This is just a great, fun one-day event. Wear your costumes, celebrate. Let's get some sugar in our scouts. Not that they need any more energy, but it's always a fun day to hang out and kind of enjoy the less advancement-based stuff, but still community building and fun activities for your scouts. And then if you were not able to attend Weeblo's Woods at Squanto on October 21st, the Weeblo's Adventure Meet is happening at Resolute. Very similar concept. They're going to be having some fun, doing activities, also working on some advancements, and they will fill out their Weeblo's passport throughout the day at each station they attend. So we have events on both sides of the council this year. Make sure that your Weeblos attend at least one, if not both.
So it also does say here on our slide, thank you, Logan. I mentioned it earlier when we talk about Slices for Scouting and Scouts BSA and crew recruitment for the venturing crews. Part of that plan is for the parties to take place in the month of October. So that's the month where you're going to want to make sure you have a party planned and plan for a little bit of follow-up. And again, as these new scouts are coming in, making sure that they're getting involved on a meeting level and making sure they have an opportunity to come to some of these activities. David, November is your favorite month.
It is. I also just want to kind of point out as we're going along here through these months, both at the pack level and at the troop level, it's highly encouraged that you have a pack-wide event in addition to your pack meeting. That's an optional event. So whether it be a hike, or if they're going down to the Fall River Battleship Museum, Battleship Cove, something in addition to kind of keep the whole kit, bring all the dens together, within the pack, and kind of have something fun in addition to what's scheduled for council and what they're doing normally month to month with their pack. And obviously on the troop level, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was getting on the troop level, the PLC obviously would be
I'm
doing
dying
things.
for you to get into rechartering because
I know you are.
In November, that's like our big deal, right?
So by this point, so we talked a little bit about in October, you should already have a good idea of what your roster is, and who's strong throughout this year. You already should at this point definitely know who your leaders are. You've maybe had to do a little shuffling at this point, but you're starting to get everything together for rechartering, so that mid-November it's all ready to go.
Awesome. And you know what? Logan is the wizard of Pinewood cutting events. And you want to start thinking about that, Logan. Tell us about Pinewood cutting events and the time frame on that, and also talk to us about what goes on in November for program.
All right, so we have already received our first official booking for this year's Pinewood Derby cutting schedule. For those of you who didn't take advantage of it last year at the pack level, since we have noticed that the BSA stores are not offering as many cutting opportunities, we have decided to step in. So you can book directly with me at logan@mayflowerbsa.org to schedule a cutting night for your pack. What that means is we will show up at your pack location for the evening with the bandsaws, drill presses, all of the tools and supplies you need, plus plenty of advice from our Pinewood Derby specialists, we like to call ourselves. We will come with about 20 different designs. I will have a few new ones this year because I always like to swap them out as we go. But your scouts are able to receive a cutting and purchase any weights or supplies they need to. We do charge a small fee of $2 per car for the upkeep of the bandsaw and the other tools we use for the event. We can do that two ways. Either each individual family can come and pay as they go through, or the pack can pay for the total number of cut cars at the end. We've done it both ways. Diane, whose face is in front of me, we did it for their pack last year and everyone had a blast. So please book early if you have a specific date in mind, because last year we filled up and we're doing upwards of 7 cuttings a week. So we're really trying to help out and provide as much support as we can there. In addition, in November on the 4th and 11th, we have Scouting for Food. So that is done on a pack level. Reach out and it is collecting food donations from your local areas. November 5th, we are celebrating Diwali, which is the Hindu festival of lights. So that is taking place at Knobscott's White Lodge. We are encouraging all scouts from all different faiths to come and join us. There will be food, there will be craft activities. We'll have a small presentation about what the holiday means, but really to show some of the and highlight some of the non-Christian holidays that are prevalent in our council. So this is the first of 4 events we will be hosting. Keep an eye out for the others as they are announced. Next, we have been incredibly lucky. On November 11th, we are partnering with Spartan Races. So for any of you who know it, those are similar to the Tough Mudders. You see folks running through obstacles, getting covered in mud, and having a grand old time. The cool part about this event is any Mayflower registered scout who wants to participate can do so free of charge. So if you check our the calendar on the website, you can find the link. The way this works is unit leaders can request a certain number of tickets. So if you have, say, 10 scouts who want to participate, you fill out a Google form for 10 scouts. You will then receive an email with 10 codes, one for each scout, and each family can go in and self-register for the event. There are races for youth 13 and under that are either a half a mile or a full mile, or if you're over the age of 14, it is a 5-kilometer race. So it'll be a super fun day. Our unit service team will be there with a booth doing recruitment for new scouts who are participating who aren't part of our council, but we are the only council they are participating. They are doing this deal.
And adults are also encouraged to participate as well, correct, Logan?
Yes. Yep. So on that note, any adult tickets that are purchased with our Mayflower code, 50% of the sale will go directly to the Mayflower Council. And that doesn't just have to be at the Fenway Park race. So if you have family or friends around the country who like to do these kind of things, if they apply for any of their local races and use our code, we still receive 50% off. And that is from now till the end of the year.
So I will be participating. If anybody wants to join Team Mayflower Council to help me up over the wall, that would be
I'll give you 10 fingers, David.
All right.
So you know what, Logan,
and the
last thing on your list is the one thing you did last year, and I have to tell you, it was your first one, and I had a blast going. Tell us about the Dutch oven cook-off.
Yes, so November 18th will be our 2nd annual Mayflower Dutch Oven Cook-Off at Knobscott. Last year, we had 9 participants, everything from deep fried Oreos to a venison stew to a seafood chowder.
French toast.
Oh yeah, and there was French toast. There was a baked French toast. There was desserts. This is just a fun event for patrols and packs to just come and make some delicious food and hang out. So we'll have fun activities throughout the day while the food is cooking, because obviously Dutch ovens don't necessarily cook at the speed of a fryer, but
they cook at the speed of smell.
And I'm going to keep drilling in this point with regard to the Weeblo's crossover events. Highly encouraged to have a fall event. Some with the crisp air, Weeblos can do, can camp at this point. You don't want to wait too far into November, but having a camping opportunity with the troop is a great way to introduce these boys and girls to the troop and to what it's like to be in a troop.
Mm-hmm. And the best part of this is everyone who attends gets to try all of the dishes, and at the end of the day, we give out awards for every one of the categories. So main dish, Cracker Barrel, and adults. So we do an adults only category. And then the top dish of the day gets the Mayflower wooden spoon, which is actually a hand carved and wood burn spoon.
Nice. Cool. So since you're talking about food and we go over to December here, I'm assuming that the Venturing Officers Association Turkey Climb is not food related. Am I right?
It is not. It is an indoor climbing day at Carabiners. If you're interested in venturing, or you have some scouts who are between the ages of 14 and 21, bring them on down for a day of climbing and hanging out at Carabiners. And then also on December 29th, our second annual Nova Day will be happening at Camp Squanto. So this is open to all Scouts. We have programs available for both the Scouts BSA track and the Cub Scout track. Last year, our Cub Scouts completed 2 Nova Awards over the course of the day, and our Scouts BSA completed 1 with the help of Lauren, who is our STEM director, or last year was our STEM director, is this year is our Flight to Eagle director from Camp Squanto.
Awesome. David.
All right, so at this point, you already should have finished your charter. It already has been submitted. This would really only be the stragglers, which I have been chasing after at this point. But hopefully by the end of November, well before you start getting caught up in the December hubbub of the holidays of the season, you have all this taken care of. Yeah. So what's this host parent meetings to go over spring program?
I could talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that. Sorry,
that
I was getting buzzed. So to prep your parents for what's coming on in the spring, I mean, granted, you're going to do something in August. You're going to have an idea on which parents are going to be moving up with their Scouts by this point. I mean, you're going to have it then. But to have it at the parents' meeting to go over the spring program and just refresh in their minds what's going to be happening and begin to look at who might be a good successor for certain positions. Doing that now gives you about 6 months to be able to have them ready for when the Scouts cross over and they can take over that role. And obviously as well, plans and invites should be beginning right now for the blue and golds. Which
so that's a little more in succession there. You really want to have someone in place well before almost like before in the middle of in the fall, I would say, because you want that person to start shadowing whoever the succession team is. And you kind of want to pass on that knowledge if they're not already involved. So it really should be really locked in at this point, who that succession team is going to be at the come the end of the year when you do cross over with your scout. The blue and gold dinner is also usually in February, and that usually takes place of a pack meeting. So that already should have been started to be planned also back in December.
So we go into the new year in 2024. David, take us through some of this stuff here with regard to spring recruitment, Scout Sunday, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Scout Sunday is usually always in February, but a lot of units will schedule a different day if it doesn't actually work for them. So Scout Sunday, those who are not familiar with it, is usually can be non-denominational, but it is with if your charter organization is a synagogue or a church or it's a good way of giving back to that charter organization, kind of saying thank you to them. You kind of present their charter and have the Scouts maybe hand out programs, that kind of thing. By this point, you already should know when your crossover ceremony is going to be. Crossover ceremonies usually start taking place anywhere from February to March. With the introduction of the 2-year Weebles program, it has been kind of pushed a little bit farther. So March is usually a very common crossover time period. But you really want to start getting your Weebles again, excited about crossing over, excited about joining camp, going to camp rather. So make sure that this is kind of the momentum starts going at this point.
And usually by now you are, Logan, getting into the whole Pinewood cutting dates, and by January you've still got some availability, but we got to get those done rather quickly. So it's another reminder about the Pinewood Derby cutting dates.
Yes, by mid-January we are fairly booked up till basically the end of February at that point. So I really encourage folks, if you can get your emails out, get your requests out earlier in the year, and just get that date on the books. Plan it as part of one of your pack meetings or as a den meeting night where we rotate the Scouts through, just a space that we can have it booked as early as possible.
And January is also the time of year where Friends of Scouting and our development team do the Friends of Scouting kickoff for the coming year. That date will be announced a little bit later on. So let's talk about February. David, we usually in February, that's usually when we start our spring kickoff, but that's also blue and gold banquet time.
It's Blue and Gold banquets are going on right now. Again, this is when people start thinking about crossover. If they're traditionally, a lot of times crossovers were on Blue and Gold banquets. Now that's kind of been pushed forward a bit. Klondike, well, Logan's going to talk a little bit about this, but obviously Klondike is a big event for the Weebles, and that's also sometimes it could be a good way of getting the Arrow Lights to kind of see what's going on with the troop, because troops participate in the Klondike as well. So you can maybe either do a sync up there or have some kind of joint effort during the Derby.
So Logan, David talked about Klondike, obviously the week before. Talk about Freeze Out.
Yes, so our winter camporees are already on the books for this coming year. So February 2nd through 4th is the Freeze Out at Resolute. All winter themed activities, including your sled race. The Freeze Out is an overnight event, so your units can stay for the weekend. Fingers crossed we don't have negative 30-degree temperatures this year and have to adjust that schedule. And then February 10th, we're doing the same thing down at Squanto with our Klondike Derby. We recommend that you folks all join us for the weekend, either one or both, if your units want to attend. They are great opportunities to just kind of get out and about in the winter and do some fun scout stuff. I know freeze outs and Klondikes are some of my favorite experiences from when I was in scouts. And then, as we mentioned in January, we have Scout Sunday is scheduled for February 11th this year.
Cool.
Again, you can have it whatever works. It doesn't have to be on that particular date, but that's the national date. But you can have it whenever works best for your unit.
Correct.
So we get into March and we start getting into nice weather. And David, I'm gonna let you talk about crossovers in a second, but I just want to jump in because that's when we're going to be beginning spring recruitment. One of the big pieces of feedback we got as a team this past year is a lot of packs and troops and crews, for that matter, didn't participate in our spring recruitment initiatives, and we had some really cool stuff. In fact, we had something really cool for the Cub Scouts where we gave each unit ice cream to throw an ice cream social. And the biggest complaint we got was we had already planned our pack calendar, and that's the reason why we're doing this particular success workshop tonight, is so that we can give you all this information. We are working on getting the fall all set up, but as soon as the fall initiatives are rolled out, we're already beginning to talk about spring recruitment for next year. And our ice cream socials this year did result in some successful Cub Scout recruitment, as well as units that actually are doing programs throughout the summer. So we will let you know early next year when it's going to happen. But when you're planning your schedule to have spring recruitment on the books, if you know your numbers are going to decrease substantially because of crossovers, having spring recruitment might not be a bad idea. We talked about succession planning. We don't have to talk about that a little bit more. But David, you brought something up earlier, and it's the last point on our slide here, and it's about re-engagement. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, just to back up a little bit, and so we did talk about crossover. March is the most popular crossover month now, but you don't want to go much past April for the primary reason that you want them to start signing up for summer camp, and you want them to kind of be engaged in the troop before they get there. And very importantly, you want to make sure that transfer occurs from your pack to your unit before they get to summer camp. We found several units still this year were going to camp when they're still registered with their pack. But this is also a good time to kind of, by this point, who's dropped from your recharter. It's a really good time to reach out to those families and those scouts and try and re-engage them. And again, if they're at the Weebles age, try and see if you can, work in conjunction with the troop to reach out to them to see if you can pull them into the troop level, and kind of remind them how it's completely different than Cub Scouting, and it's a whole new adventure that they might really enjoy.
So Logan, I want to bring you back into this for a minute because there's not a lot of dates here in the month of March. So I do want to jump into the whole Pinewood Derby discussion for a quick second here. This would be a good time for Cub Scout packs to have their pack Pinewood Derby.
Yes, March is a great time. If you want to make sure that you include your Arrow of Light Scouts, so if you have an Arrow of Light den that really loves the Pinewood Derby, you want to make sure that you schedule that early enough that they can participate before they move on to the troop. We are still doing cuttings through the month of March, but try and get your Pinewood Derby in sooner rather than later, because we all know how busy the spring gets. And just to double back on David talking about getting those arrow of lights crossing over sooner rather than later, another big point for that is you want to make sure that they feel like they are a part of the troop before they get to summer camp, so that they make friends, they make connections, they feel like they are one with their unit before they get to summer camp, because we all know what it's like to be the new kid showing up just before you go away for a week. So it's nice to have that connection with the troop before you go.
Yeah, and hopefully by this, by early spring, there's usually an early spring troop event. These new guys will get to go on it and kind of experience that before they kind of go off on their own with their troop and so.
So April, this is going to sound a little repetitive here. Spring recruitment's still going on. So obviously, accepting new scouts and have them begin work on whatever rank they're going to be working on at that point in time, whether it's the Cub level or the Scouts BSA level. Also for Scouts BSA, it's a good time to begin to promote and begin to figure out summer camp. We've talked about the crossovers, spring recruitment's going on, summer pack events, and of course the big show, Logan, for Pinewood Derby.
Yes, so we have officially booked April 27th will be the Council Pinewood Derby this year. Last year we had a blowout day. Scouts had a blast. If you have never seen our Council Pinewood Derby, it is a sight to be seen. We have televisions all over the room. We have instant replays. We have scouts who can press the button to get the race started. We take pictures of every participant and their car. So it's truly a fun day to experience and be a part of. We are also always looking for volunteers who are interested in helping out with that. Both Scouts BSA and venturing scouts, as well as a few adults.
So Logan, while I've got you here, because some of the questions are going off, and we're going to take questions at Q&A, but one of the things we haven't talked about, and it's probably because those dates coincide with their particular calendars, events. We talked about the night at Fenway, which is going to be coming up in the fall. But for the other events like the night at the Revs or the Woo Sox or any of that, that's stuff that comes out once their schedule comes out for the upcoming year. So we don't have dates on those yet, correct?
Correct. They reach out to us usually around February with the dates that they have available, and we can choose from 2 or 3 dates out of that space. So as soon as they make them available to us, we'll make them available to you folks, along with a couple other events as well. Joyce Jordan had a great question in the comment box that I will touch on briefly. Museum of Science. We are still waiting to hear about them restarting those sleepovers. I have reached out to them a couple of times in the last few months, and as of now, they have not discussed it. We are hoping that in 2024, they do restart these, because we do know how much all the packs love it. I know my pack, it's one of their favorite activities.
And for those that don't know, what happened was the Museum of Science had to lay off the majority of their staff during the whole COVID thing, and they have not been able to recruit a sizable or qualified staff to actually continue to run the museum of the overnight program. So that's,
you know what, this might be a good time. Why don't we get to May and June, and before we do Q&A, Logan, I know you have a whole list of other places for overnight sleepovers that you can make available, but let's get through our last 2 months before we get to that, before we get to Q&A. That way we can keep things moving along. May, the month of May. Again, if you look at the screen here, there's a lot of the same stuff here, and that is crossovers, accepting your new scouts into your program, and then spring recruitment and finalizing your summer program should be happening in the month of May. Logan, we got a couple of activities on the books here in the month of May. Talk about them.
We do. So this year, May 4th will be the Spring Camporee at Camp Squanto. So that is for Scouts BSA Scouts. It is an overnight event. Last year's was Wilderness and First Aid themed, or well, this past year's was Wilderness and First Aid themed and was phenomenal. Our scouts had to save some human victims from the woods, which was really fun. And then May 18th will be our Chuck Wagon Derby. So thank you to everyone who came out to this year's space-themed Chuck Wagon Derby with our inflatable obstacle course and our space cantina. It's always a fun day for the Cubs, and there will be camping allowed for this upcoming Chuck Wagon Derby. We know that that was one of the things our unit struggled with this past year, that because it took place in June, they were not allowed to camp overnight. So we've moved it up a bit this year so that they can camp.
So, obviously the other thing we do have to put in there when you're doing your plans is looking, we didn't talk about parades at all. And that's obviously more on a local unit level, but when you're planning your calendar, and we probably should have talked about this way in the beginning, but looking ahead to those weekends and finding out when the parades are that you're going to be participating in so that you can have them on the calendar. In some communities, that's something they already know about. But for example, Veterans Day in November with the three Bridgewaters, it rotates every year. So finding that information out right about now would be a great time. But don't forget about the parades, and don't forget about opportunities for you to participate in community events to keep the program present in everybody's eyes. And we're in June. David, take us through June, would you?
Yeah, so just to go before you really dive into your spring recruitment, you really want to have those summer programs finalized. So you've already had a couple months to plan this, kind of nail it down, or sign up for locations if you need to sign up for them. So you should be finalizing at this point what your summer programs will be. You should have a summer program at the pack level for each month. A lot of units will end with an ice cream party in June. And then they'll have their, the movie nights or rocket launches, and family campouts, that stuff throughout the summer. So it's very important to have that nailed down at this point prior to your spring recruiting event.
And you know what, David, if I could just jump in for a second, with spring recruitment on the Cub level, if we are using the same model that we're using for this past year when it comes to Scoops for Scouting, having that program planned before you sign up for spring recruitment is going to be a prerequisite. As we did this past year, and we didn't have any problems whatsoever. Everybody planned a program, and it could be something simple as a hike. So,
make sure all your troops are crossed over at this point before you register them for camp.
Awesome. And Megan from Whitman just chiming in here for a second. The free fishing, the first weekend in June. So if you wanted to do a fishing derby, that's a pretty cool idea. So great.
Yeah, so a lot of your local gun clubs and fish clubs will have fishing derbies around this in June. And so that's good point.
So
it's a great thing
before we jump into Q&A, Logan, you've got a big list. Is that something that we can share here, or is that something we want to make available by email, or do you want to do both?
That is something we can make available by email. No problem.
Okay.
But yes, we do have a pile of other places. So we understand that the Museum of Science isn't currently offering their sleepovers, but there are a lot of other places that are open to Cub Scouts and provide phenomenal activities. So Connecticut has the Air and Space Museum. We have the Ecotarium in Worcester, Battleship Cove, obviously, down in Fall River. Another one that a lot of folks don't think about is actually the USS Constitution, that's in the Charlestown Navy Yard. It's a phenomenal overnight. It's one pack at a time, so you do have to apply to participate in it. But it will by far be the cheapest overnight you have for your Cubs, because you only pay for meals and you're eating in the military mess hall, so it's a fairly cheap day.
You're actually sleeping on the Constitution. You're sleeping where the sailors slept back in the 1800s. It's an amazing experience. I just did that with
it is, my and they do hike practice with the Scouts. So it's a wonderful day. Evan did put in the comments that they do book out pretty regularly. They are doing year-round overnights now, so they've had a bit more availability in the last.
So again, reach out now to try and get something for next summer.
So we've covered a lot of ground tonight about how to plan your unit calendar for the upcoming year. And we've answered some of the questions from the people who have participated live. However, we understand that you might have questions of your own. You are welcome to email any one of us, David, Logan, or myself, at the email addresses provided on your screen. Thank you for attending, and have a good night.